up, everybody? Dan here with Dan and Sarah Makers, and thank you for joining me for a special Tool Tuesday. So, over the past many years, every time I go to a friend's or a relative's or just an acquaintance's house for vacation or visiting or whatever, I almost always find myself helping out or assisting in some type of home repair, fix it. Oh, this has been a problem for 12 years and I have no clue how to fix it, or whatever. So I always kind of pack a few tools with me when I travel, but unfortunately, almost every single time I do that, I pack way too many tools and I never use like 90% of them. And I find out that, you know, I could have done that job with just this tool, and this tool instead of these 12 tools that I brought. Being that it's getting kind of close to the holidays, this is a really good gift list for a friend, a relative, a loved one, yourself. I have an Amazon affiliate link or store, so I put as many links for as many of these tools down below as I possibly can. Amazon doesn't necessarily carry every single tool on earth. Some of the brands are different, some of the styles are different. I've got some older tools that might not be made anymore, but I'll try and do my best to give either the link for the exact tool or something very, very comparable. Trying to stay in that $25 maximum price range. Some of these will be a little bit more, some will be substantially less. But that's kind of, you know, a good gift present type value there. So originally it was going to be the top 20, then it was going to be the top 25, now it's probably more like top 30. So without any further ado, we'll get into this, and then just kind of a word for the Amazon affiliate link. You don't pay anything more extra when you purchase through our affiliate link, but we do get a little percentage of the sale price as a, I don't know, finder's fee, whatever. So it does help out our channel. It goes into creating content and things like that for upcoming videos that are a little bit more expensive to create and produce. First and foremost, a toolbox. I think a toolbox is an excellent investment because grocery bags, whether paper or plastic, don't hold tools very long. Cardboard boxes don't stand up very well. But a toolbox is definitely a good investment. This is a Stanley Fat Max. There are several different toolboxes on the market that are extremely similar to this. Black & Decker, obviously. Black & Decker owns Stanley, which owns DeWalt, which owns Lennox, which owns a ton of other companies. As far as this toolbox, it's a 28-inch. It's a plastic toolbox, but it's kind of a reinforced plastic, so it's not flimsy. I've got a whole array of plastic toolboxes that have broken latches, broken hinges, broken all sorts of stuff. It's just not that great. I have 3 of these toolboxes now because it is a durable, good toolbox. But as far as this toolbox goes, some of the features that I really like on it and I would look for in other toolboxes, if this isn't the one I was going to get, is it's 28 inches long. That gives me enough room internally that I can put a handsaw and I can put a 2-foot level in there. Unfortunately, I can't get a framing square in there because that 16-inch long L-shaped blade just doesn't fit in there, but it will fit those other items. It has metal latches, which I really like. It's got a nice flip-down handle on top. It's got a little bit of a rubber padded over mold on it, not really substantial. On top, it's got this kind of a diamond checker plate texture, so it's kind of an anti-slip. If you absolutely had to get on your toolbox and stand on it or sit on it, you could. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. It's got this V-groove in the top, which has inches and centimeters molded in. You can put pieces of pipe in this to support it, pieces of threaded rod, a 2x4, 2x2, something like that, and use that as kind of a cutting brace. It's got 2 side handles because these things can get really unwieldy. You know, you put 60, 70, 80 pounds of metal tools in here, you want a good way to grab it and go. So that's a nice feature. On the back side, might be a little bit hard to see, it's got this kind of a cutout, kind of a radius cutout. That is so when you're carrying the toolbox by your side, your hip, your leg, whatever kind of goes into that cutout and you aren't hitting yourself quite as much. As for the box itself, it's got a tray in the top. The tray can be set on one side or the other. It won't go in the center really, but it has a lot of molded in tabs that support that tray in multiple spots, so it's not going to warp and twist. This is a pretty heavy duty tray. It does have a little bit of flex in it, but it is pretty substantial. It's got 2 side containers and then a couple little smaller dividers in this ends. As far as the box itself, pretty simple, straightforward, not a lot of bells and whistles in it, but it does have this molded in, injection molded yellow rubber gasket, and this will actually seal on top of the box and give you a waterproof toolbox. Hammers are something that a lot of people have, you know, hanging a picture, framing a house, you know, whatever. Hammers are very universal. Please do not go out and get something like this. As you can see, the head's all bent down. It's a smooth face, super curved claw, rather inexpensive, just throwaway hammer. So that's probably the most inexpensive one. As far as a high-end hammer, you've got like a Martinez M1 hammer. It's titanium with a steel head. These are probably one of the most expensive hammers you can get. There's a reason they're very popular, even though they're super expensive, because they're very nice. This is not an entry-level hammer. This DeWalt MIG weld hammer, it's a 14 ounce, so it's kind of got the weight of a titanium style hammer. It's probably in the $50-ish range. This is an extremely popular hammer. A lot of people really like these hammers. It's got the magnetic nail set, a waffle face, and it's a small, compact, lightweight hammer that you can do a lot of work with. The only drawback is I have seen these break. I have seen the claws on these things many times, not just one time, fluke. I've seen them bent and broken off and looking bad. So it's a very durable hammer. It's overstrike, you know, it's got a steel bar, so it's not going to get destroyed if you hit rebar or concrete or something like that. But it is a little bit more spendy, and like I said, the steel is a little bit more ductile, bendy, and doesn't stand up quite as well as some hammers I've seen. As far as good entry-level hammers in the $20 to $30 range, I've got a couple options here. I've got a 20-ounce Vaughan hammer. If you notice, it's got a fiberglass shaft. It's smooth-faced. The jaw or the claw's somewhat straight, and it's a relatively long hammer handle. So this gives you good speed and nail driving capability, and it's got a smooth face, so if you're doing siding, trim work, something like that, and you don't want waffle marks everywhere, this would be a good entry-level hammer to get. Lightweight. This is a 21-ounce Hart hammer. So Harts, they're a little bit hard to find. It's got a side face here to drive nails sideways if you're in a tight area. It's got a really straight jaw on the back. It's got a side puller here, and then it's got a magnetic nail set on top. So this is probably one of the least expensive hammers, but really turned out to be a nice hammer. It's got a steel shank on it. So I like this one for an inexpensive, useful framing hammer. Some people really, really like them. They're kind of hard to find now, but a great entry-level hammer. As far as the tried and true bulletproof, it's been going for however many years, 40, 50, 60 years. The Estwings, they have the steel shaft on them. The head is forged on there, and it's all in one piece. It's got a waffle face on it, and this is a 22 ounce. It's got a reinforced nylon plastic grip, and just a really, really durable hammer. These things are, you know, they'll last you a lifetime, basically. So it's kind of user preference, as with any type of tool, but hammers especially. Some people really don't like the feel of a steel hammer, but this is an excellent entry-level hammer. You can also get it with a smooth face if you want that. Cat's paws, or tiny crowbars, are a really beneficial tool when you have nails that have been driven in all the way or flush with the surface. It's hard to get them out with a big crowbar, so you need something that actually has some sharp points that dig in underneath the nail head. There are quite a few different styles out there and values or costs to them. There's this kind that I use something very similar to this when I first started out, made by Dasco Pro. This one's made by Estwing, but it's kind of a hexagonal shaped crowbar style. It's got some kind of radiused or dished out ends on it. They're fairly wide. I'm not a big fan of them. I prefer the style where it's much narrower. They have a flatter end on one end, and then they have the 90-degree hook on the other. This one's made by Estwing. They make this in various sizes. I like this one for roofing because it's very flat, it's very thin, and I can get up under composition shingles, a higher course of them, and actually pry roofing nails out very easily with this particular one. So if roofing is in store for you, this would be the style. As far as a conventional style, there is the Vaughan style here, which is a steel crowbar or cat's paw. This is probably your best universal style of cat's paw, in my opinion. And then there is the stiletto titanium one. Much more expensive, much lighter. So if you're doing it professionally and you're going to be carrying it around all day, the stiletto is nice. But this Vaughan is also a really good one. For an actual crowbar or pry bar, honestly, nothing beats the Vaughan Super Bar. I have used these for 20-something years. They are the best style of what would be called a flat bar out there. They have spring steel. I've never actually seen an actual Vaughan Super Bar break. I have seen a lot of different brands bend. I've seen a lot of different brands break over the years. Teeth break off. The end bends. These flatten out. They get kinks in them, all kinds of stuff like that. But I've never had a Vaughan go bad on me. So as far as just a good, lightweight, compact pry bar, flat bar, demolition bar, this is the way to go. You can actually get this flat part in between 2x4 studs and pry sideways, and you can split plates apart if you need to, if you're doing demolition or renovation work. They are just a really, really good tool. So honestly, this is the one I would recommend. Framing squares are one of those tools where a lot of people like to pretend that they know how to use everything on them. They know all the numbers, all the tables, all that stuff. I don't. And honestly, I probably will never get to the point where I need to learn all of it. If I need to brush up on it, I can always do that. There are basically two types of framing squares. I don't think they make them in any type of plastic that I'm aware of. They have steel and they have aluminum. There are drawbacks and benefits to both. Aluminum, it doesn't corrode. It's softer and lighter. If it does bend though, for some reason, like this is no longer a true 90 degree, which can happen, there's no way to adjust them or true them up. A lot of aluminum ones don't have a lot of information on them, so I actually look for them where it's etched. There's an actual groove where the line for the dimensions are. It's not just printed on there, and it has additional rafter tables and things like that, because it does have beneficial information on there. As far as steel, they're usually a little bit thinner than the aluminum. As you can see, they rust, which is not a big benefit in my opinion. I look for the ones that have actual imprinted lines on them, not just printed with ink on the surface. These, though, you can actually use a nail set on the top corner or inside corner and hit it with a nail set and open or close this angle if they are not at a true 90 degree angle. So these can be adjusted. So if you find one in a thrift store, in an antique store, in a junk store or something, sometimes you will find little like nail set pin hits at those places, and you know that somebody was adjusting the square to try and true it up. So that is one nice thing about the metal. So like I said, aluminum doesn't corrode, a lot lighter, can't be adjusted. Steel, heavier, rusts and corrodes, and can be adjusted. So I like the steel ones personally, but as you can see, you neglect them for a week in the rain and you've got a little bit of cleanup to do. Speed squares or framing carpentry squares, they're pretty basic, pretty simple. The standard is about a 7-inch square, and they're used a lot in framing and carpentry work to just make a quick square across dimensional lumber. Not really big, but a lot more compact than a big full-size framing square. This particular one is a reinforced polymer, plastic, whatever, speed square. Very lightweight. It's fairly durable. I don't use them too much, so I don't know if they break or not. But if you want an inexpensive yet fully functional speed square that's lightweight, this would be the way to go. They've got the standard, this is kind of a machined or extruded aluminum speed square. So it's aluminum. This one's a cast aluminum, so you've got a Swanson, which is kind of the original Speed Square, and then an Empire. They have different cutouts, different little features and benefits and bonuses on them, but they pretty much all function the same. These are kind of the industry standard for what you'd be using if you're a carpenter. There's some specialized ones. Milwaukee, of course, is coming out with every possible tool under the sun that they can think of. This is a Speed Square. They make a smaller version of this, and then this particular one has a few magnets in the backside here. So that's nice if you're working with steel studs or something like that. You can click it to the side of the steel, and it'll kind of give you a shelf or a storage spot or whatever you want. It won't slide around like a normal square would on metal. So it's kind of a neat feature. I've used it a little bit now, and not too bad. And then one of the other kind of specialty ones here, this one's is going to be a lot more beneficial if you're doing a lot of angled cuts for, say, roofing or something like that, and you need to make a lot of repetitive marks at a certain angle. You can loosen up this thumb screw, flip this arm to whatever angle you want, and you can kind of screw it tight and lock it in at that location. So this is also another beneficial one. Like I said, though, if you're doing a lot of angle cuts on a roof or something, this is where it's most beneficial. Utility knives. The number one thing that I would look for in a utility knife is a way to easily open the knife up and access spare blade storage and changing out the blade. This is a Cobalt brand. I don't know if they make them anymore. They may. I've got a bunch of these, but it's just got a trapdoor side lever, and it's got a little magnetic storage where I can store multiple blades inside of the knife. As far as removing the blade, I can just lift it up, throw that blade away, flip it around, whatever, and put it in there. I would say one thing to check, and you would want to make sure your knife does it, is if you've got some kind of specialty blade like a carpet knife blade or a blunt nose blade or a hook blade for roofing or something like that, that it actually does fit in the knife itself. But this is a really beneficial knife. It's easy to use. It's easy to change out your blades. You don't need a screwdriver or nail head or something to try and unscrew it and screw it back together again. So, awesome tool. Just make sure on your utility knives that the body overlaps and the seam doesn't go straight through the front or the back, because every now and again a blade will get loose and pop out and either go forward or backward, and you don't want that happening. So that's why you want to see that seam at the point of your knife to kind of overlap offset. Locks it together, keeps the blade from getting knocked out. This is a Stanley. Again, I can push it forward. It's got a little yellow button on the side. I can push that button down and pull the blade straight out of the end to change it out. It's got a little notch for a string cutter. Is it that beneficial? I don't use it ever. And then it's got a little trapdoor that I can pop open easily and get to new blades. So again, it's a very user-friendly, no tools required to change out blades when I need to. As far as big bladed knife, these Olfas, these are really nice if you're going to cut insulation, rigid foam board, something like that, or just really like a big thick utility knife, cutting caulking, something like that, cutting windows out. This is a really nice knife to have because you can extend it out quite a few inches, and if you want to, you can snap off blade sections when the tip of it gets dull. It's just a twist lock, and it goes all the way down, locks, so it's a little bit more work to open it and close it, but it's a very nice utility knife to have. If you work with plastic laminate for countertops, or you have, say, those translucent panels over your fluorescent fixtures in your kitchen and the corners have cracked or broken, plastic laminate and those panels can be extremely difficult to cut without it cracking, fracturing, breaking. This particular cutter from Olfa, it has a unique kind of blade that scores and basically scratches out a thin ribbon of material each time, and you can cut multiple times and then snap and break those panels cleanly. So if you are trying to replace a bunch of fluorescent light covers, this is a very, very handy tool to have. And if you do plastic laminate countertops, this is, again, a very, very handy tool to have. As an additional little thing for utility knives, a lot of companies are starting to get into these flip open kind of pocket knife style knives. It's freezing cold out here and my fingers are cold. This one is a very simple one by Milwaukee. It does have a little string cutter in a couple different places, the pocket clip, and it does have a button on the side so you can pull the blade out. It's got no onboard blade storage, so you've got the one blade, you can flip it around and you got a second blade, but after that you have to go back to the toolbox and get additional blades. They came out with a newer style here. It's a little bit wider, but it does have a flip out blade storage. There are none in here right now, but you can put some extra blades in there if you need them, and it closes up. There are a lot of different chalk lines out there. Chalk lines are, unfortunately, if you're a professional carpenter and you work outside, you'll know that a chalk line, in some cases, its lifespan in different types of weather might only be a few days, and it's garbage once they get wet. So unless you have a lot of time to take chalk lines apart, completely clean them out, completely dry them out, replace the string, rewind them, then reload them with chalk, a lot of times it's not worth it. This is an Irwin chalk line. A few things I would say when looking for a chalk line is something where you could maybe push the center of the handle and pull out the string easily without the handle spinning around. Some of the smaller, more inexpensive chalk lines, the handle has to be released and it spins around as you're pulling it out and it's whacking your fingertips and stuff like that. And then you can push it down and put the handle back in. Another thing you want to see is an easy to open chalk line. You don't want some type of chalk line where you have to unscrew it and lose parts or something like that. So either a trap door or some type of flip open hinge is a good thing you want to look for in a chalk line. And then the other thing is a geared winder. So you don't want to sit there and reel up 100 feet of chalk line and have it take you 10 minutes. You want to be able to have a 3-to-1, 5-to-1 gear ratio in there, so you're pulling that line in pretty quick. So those are some things to look for in a chalk line. The Irwin, it's a good chalk line. It's kind of mid-level. There are a lot of gourmet chalk lines out there now. The Tajimas are a really popular one. They have a really nice fine string. They have 0.5 and 1 millimeter strings. It's got a little lock here that keeps the handle from spinning so it can hang if you need to, and then you can unlock it and then spin the handle. The handle flips out. Again, this is a geared ratio, so it reels in the chalk line a lot faster than just one turn is one turn. The one thing about this one here, the handle does spin as you pull the line out, but it's made in such a way that that handle isn't flipped out, whacking you in the fingertips when it's spinning. These, they have a felt gasket in there that if you do break the string and it goes in, trying to rethread it's a bit of a challenge. So there is a tiny little tool down here, and I'm not going to pull it out because it's probably very cold and it will probably crack and break if I pull it out. But there's basically like a little fish hook that you stick in there and then you can pull through and then push back in, and it's contained in a little channel right there. This is an aluminum chalk line, and they're kind of the gourmet of chalk lines, so they're probably in the $30 range. A lot of chalk lines, if you're going to buy one, buy it with chalk. It doesn't cost that much more. Sometimes I've actually seen a package of chalk line and chalk for less than a chalk line and chalk separate. So look for that when you do. One feature of a chalk line, I don't see a lot of people use it that much, but you can use it. You can hang it at the top of a wall or something and hang it down and use it as a plumb bob to get a nice plumb line. So it's not used that common, but you can do it, which is one of the reasons why they have that kind of point on the end. You'll always see kind of that plumb bob shape on almost all chalk lines for that purpose. Just be aware, different colors of chalk have different permanence levels. Why I say that is if you are going to have a exposed concrete floor and you're using red or black chalk, chances are that chalk's not coming off from when you were over snapping your lines for walls and now you have these permanent red and black marks. So you might want to look at an orange or a purple / lavender blue. So look at the level of permanence on the chalk color that you're using before you just get a color you like and have problems with having that color you like forever. As far as tape measures, my opinion is the simpler the better. I prefer personally a tape measure that when you pull it out and you let go, it retracts on its own And if you want the option, it has a lever that allows you to lock it in whatever position you want. I don't like a lot of tape measures that are the Fat Max, over molded rubber, super wide, all that kind of stuff. I just like the really classic clean tape measure. The Stanley Powerlock 30 foot in my opinion is the only length of tape measure to get. Don't get the 35s, don't get the 25s, get the 30. That is a really, really good length. So there's the Stanley. As far as the only other tape measure that I really, really like, I like these Comalon 30-foot Monster Mag Grip magnetic tape measures. This one I had for quite a while. I need to order some new ones. It's got kind of a shot stick on the backside for elevations if you need to. And then it's got just the standard tape measure markings on the front. It's got tabs on the top and the bottom, and in the end here it does have a magnet, and they are fairly strong, so you can actually hook them to stuff and pull measurements. So if you're dealing with steel studs or metal buildings or something like that, these are really nice tape measures. Again, it has the same feature, it retracts when you let go, and then it's got a thumb lock just like the Stanley. It's got rubber armor on it, which I'm not a big fan of, but it is still fairly narrow, so it isn't too bad when you're trying to stick it in your bags. As you can see, or maybe not, it's all kind of worn off on all the high spots from when I would put it in my nail bags. So these two tape measures, in my opinion, are probably some of the nicest ones out there. Levels are one of those tools that are definitely beneficial. When it comes to hanging doors, hanging a picture, checking a door threshold, tile, whatever, it's a really nice tool to have. A torpedo level is basically a really short level. You can put them in your nail bags, you can put them in your pocket, something like that. This is probably the most inexpensive style you could get. It's extremely lightweight, it's all plastic. It has 3 bubble vials. One gives you a level this way, one would give you plumb, straight up and down, and then this one here will give you a 45-degree angle, so they're preset. This one's probably not the most precise, but unless you're a millwright and you're doing, lining up stuff within a few mil, this one would probably do fine. There's the step up, where this one's kind of got some aluminum supports in it, and it's a little bit beefier. Not by much, but still, it's got the plumb level and 45 degree, but this one also has a magnet in it. This magnet is kind of a piece of long tape, and it's relatively soft, so you can get stuff stuck in it. So just make sure that that magnet's clean and you don't have a piece of metal stuck in there that you're going against. If you're going to do a little bit more complex leveling where you might want a slope, say you're building a deck or a sidewalk or driveway or something, or you're installing pipe with drainage, this level here, it's a little bit longer than the previous one. It's got 4 vials now, and then this particular vial gives you increments of 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 1/2 inch per foot of slope. So basically you just level it up until the bubble hits the line that you want for your slope. So again, magnetic, aluminum, plastic reinforced. Not a bad level. And then we've got a couple of the Stabilas, which are kind of the nice high-end ones. They're identical in every way except for one is magnetic and one is not. The magnetic one here on the Stabila, it has a rare earth magnets, which are metal, so you don't have to worry about pieces of metal like embedding themselves into those circular magnets. So a little less hassle. If I'm just doing regular wood framing construction, I'll use a non-magnetic, because if I put it in my bags, I don't want nails and screws and staples and all the little random stuff that gets in your nail bag sticking to the magnets all the time. Whereas torpedo levels, the short ones, are really nice. They're only as precise as the section of material that you're putting the level up against. So the longer the level you can get, typically the more precise the overall level is going to be. So for a toolbox like I was showing, that 28 inch, I can fit a 2-foot level in there. So there, again, are a huge number of levels. There's all plastic, there's aluminum, there's I-beam, there's box beam. This is a box beam. This one is magnetic. You can get non-magnetic ones also. So just, it kind of depends on what you're looking for. But for regular wood framing, something this length is nice. You could probably install doors reliably with a level this long. The only benefit of having a full-length jam setter level set is that you can put the level up against the jam, either the hinge side or the strike side, and make sure that your wood jam isn't warbling all over, so you get a real nice reveal when you actually install your video.